It was the kind of night that could make you believe in fate, or perhaps just coincidence. But looking back, I now know that some things are destined to happen, no matter how hard we try to avoid them. The music thumped through the walls of the house party, spilling into the warm evening air like an unspoken invitation to let go. I was there to have a good time, maybe meet some new people, drink, laugh, and forget about the week, but I didn't know it then. This night was about to ruin everything. I thought I knew about myself, about love, about trust. It was the beginning of a story I wouldn't be able to erase no matter how hard I tried. His name was Alex. I hadn't noticed him at first, lost in conversation with people I'd known for years, casually sipping my drink and not giving much thought to who was around me. But then there he was, standing just a few feet away, talking with a group. He didn't even seem like he was trying to get attention. His dark hair fell into his eyes as he laughed at something one of his friends had said, a laugh that seemed to wrap around you like a warm hug when he caught my gaze. It was like everything around us paused for a second. I swear I couldn't breathe. His eyes, dark and deep like a stormy ocean, pulled me in, and I couldn't look away. You might think that sounds dramatic, but I'm telling you, it wasn't. It was raw, real. There was something about him that felt dangerous in the best possible way. And just like that, the world shifted. The noise of the party seemed to fade into the background as we started talking. There was nothing special about it, just the usual small talk at a party. But something about his voice, the way he held himself, made everything seem infinitely more interesting. Maybe it was the way he smiled, like he knew something you didn't. Or maybe it was the way he made everything feel so easy. By the end of the night, I had already agreed to meet him again. I didn't even hesitate. There was a pull between us, something magnetic, and I didn't want to let it slip away. We texted that whole week, and by the time the weekend came around, it felt like we'd known each other forever. We hung out almost every day. The way he looked at me, the way he listened so intently, made me feel like the most important person in the world. Every little thing he did, every laugh, every word felt like a sweet melody, playing just for me. I couldn't explain it. I didn't need to. I was falling for him hard. But like any good story, the deeper you go, the darker the path becomes. I knew we were moving fast, maybe too fast, but I couldn't help it. He was unlike anyone I'd ever met before. He was funny, sweet, thoughtful, and with every conversation, I found myself more and more invested. I thought it was perfect, that we were perfect. Then came that first night, that first attempt at being more than just the fun, flirty friends we'd been. We'd been talking about it for a while, joking around, teasing each other. Letting the tension build. The chemistry was undeniable. I could feel it. He could feel it. But then, just as we were about to cross that line, it happened. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't loud. But it was there. The awkwardness, the hesitation. Alex froze. His body, usually so relaxed now, stiff and unmoving, as though the weight of everything had finally caught up with him. His gaze dropped, his eyes darting around the room, avoiding mine. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice soft, gentle. I thought maybe he was just nervous. Who wouldn't be? We'd been building up to this moment for weeks, but when he didn't answer, my mind started to race. "Nothing," he said, finally meeting my eyes. But there was something off. A flicker of uncertainty. A frustration that I hadn't seen before. I didn't want to make him feel worse, so I laughed it off. "It's fine, honestly. This happens to everyone at least once, right? We don't have to rush into anything." I made a joke out of it, trying to ease the tension. But even as I spoke, I felt a knot in my stomach. But the thing was, It wasn't just a one-time thing. It happened again and again. Every time we tried, the same problem arose. Alex was distant, his anxiety spiraling into something more than I could understand. I was patient. I was supportive because I knew this wasn't about me. But I couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling inside, like I was watching something slip through my fingers. Something precious, something real. He'd cancel plans, avoid our intimate moments, and at first, I thought it was just stress. Maybe he was overthinking it. Maybe he was just tired. But as time went on, it became clear it was more than that. I started questioning everything. Was it me? Did I not turn him on anymore? Was there something I wasn't doing right? I began to wonder if I was the problem, the one thing in the equation that wasn't adding up, but every time I tried to bring it up, Alex would shut down his once carefree nature, became more guarded, more distant, until he was a stranger sitting next to me on the couch, a shadow of the man I had fallen for, the man who used to look at me with that spark in his eyes, the man who used to laugh at my dumb jokes and make me feel invincible. I knew something wasn't right, something deeper than just physical intimacy. It wasn't just about sex. It wasn't just about our relationship. It was about him. And that's when I started noticing things. Little things. He would come home late after work, looking more drained than usual. Eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't been sleeping. He'd brush it off, tell me it was nothing. But there was a hesitation in his voice, something I couldn't ignore. When he did talk about work, there was a sense of dread in his words, like it was crushing him slowly. I knew I had to give him space, but I also knew something was eating him from the inside out. And the more I tried to reach out to him, the more he pulled away, like a puzzle missing pieces, or a story told out of order. It wasn't just the physical distance. The distance between us was the emotional chasm that started to grow wider with every passing day. And still, I couldn't give up on him. I couldn't let him slip away. But the harder I tried to get closer, the further he seemed to drift. So there I was, caught between wanting to help and the reality of feeling like I was losing him, like I was losing myself in the process. But then came that moment, the moment when I finally realized what was happening, when everything I'd ignored, everything I'd pushed aside, finally clicked into place. Before I tell you what happened, if you want to hear more of my story, more of these secrets and cheating stories, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter of this twisted tale. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next, because what I discovered changed everything. Secrets and cheating stories, where the truth gets messy. The night Alex came home with a plan was one I'll never forget. It wasn't just the surprise of it all, or the way he handed me the bag with a nervous smile, like he wasn't sure how I'd react. It was the sheer absurdity of it. The weight of the bag itself felt like it held the potential to either make or break us. I was thinking, he said care, watching my face. Maybe we could try something new, something that'll help us relax and have more fun. The hope in his voice was almost palpable, like he was pleading for a sign that things could finally go back to what they once were. But I didn't know if I was ready for that yet. The emotional exhaustion had been eating away at me for weeks, and I was tired of trying to hold us together when it felt like we were slipping through the cracks. I opened the bag, hesitating for a moment, not sure what I would find inside. But when I looked down, I felt a strange mixture of surprise and curiosity. The bag was filled with a variety of toys, vibrators, handcuffs, massage gels, and scents I didn't even know existed. Strawberry, vanilla, coconut. The handcuffs were plush, soft to the touch, a subtle suggestion of control, of giving in. while the vibrators seemed almost innocent, like they were meant to be playful. Fun Alex had clearly thought this through. There was a little more to this than just wanting to spice things up. He wanted to fix things, to take control, to make us feel like we could move past the issue in a way that didn't require confronting it directly. I could see his hopes clinging to those items in the bag, desperate to find a way to bring us back to a place where we weren't just a couple in limbo. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, my voice softer than I wanted it to be. "I mean, I don't know if we're ready for—" He cut me off, stepping closer, his hand brushing against mine as he gently pushed the bag toward me. "I know we can figure this out. Just trust me." There was a twinge of something in his voice that made it hard for me to argue. Maybe it was the sincerity, or maybe it was the hope that I could see in his eyes. Whatever it was, I couldn't bring myself to turn him down. We tried it that night. At first, it felt right. The atmosphere was different, lighter almost. The vibrators buzzed against our skin in ways I hadn't expected. The massage gel was warm and sweet, a slight tingle, making me feel like I could let go of all the tension I'd been holding in for so long for a moment. It felt like the weight of our problems lifted. It felt like we were reintroducing each other to what it was like to be desired again. But even as I let myself fall into the novelty of it all, I could sense something was off. I could feel Alex beside me, but his energy was distant, as if he was just going through the motions. I tried not to pay too much attention to it. I kept my focus on the toys, on the new sensations. The buzzing vibrators made me feel something different, something I hadn't felt in a while. I leaned into the pleasure, allowing myself to enjoy the novelty of it. For a second, it was just us, tangled in the warm glow of the dim lights and the scent of strawberries lingering in the air. But Alex, he wasn't enjoying it. His body remained stiff, unwilling to follow through, unwilling to lose himself to the moment. I could feel the tension in him, the way he fought it, like he was desperately trying to enjoy what should have been fun. But his mind wouldn't let him. It was a cycle, a constant loop of failure, of frustration. Each failed attempt was like a blow to his pride. I saw the disappointment in his eyes every time I saw the way he turned away, how his gaze darted anywhere but at me, as if he couldn't bear the sight of what we were becoming. He wanted this. He wanted to feel confident again, wanted to be the man who could take charge, but he couldn't, and that broke something in me. We kept going, trying different combinations of toys, different techniques, trying to force it, trying to make it work, but each attempt only made the distance between us more pronounced. The excitement of the new toys faded quickly, replaced by an undercurrent of tension. What was meant to bring us closer was now the source of our misery, a constant reminder of what we couldn't have. "I'm sorry," Alex muttered, after one of the many failed attempts, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I don't get it. I really don't." "I don't know, Alex," I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. "Maybe this isn't about the toys. Maybe it's about something else, something deeper." He didn't answer me. He just stood there, staring at the floor, his shoulders hunched in defeat. I wanted to comfort him, but I was starting to feel like I was losing myself in the process. How much longer could I keep pretending everything was okay when it felt like we were falling apart at the seams? But then, in the midst of all that, a new dynamic entered the picture, one I hadn't seen coming. It was Alex's business, his bar. He'd been running it for years, but lately, the bar had become a symbol of everything Alex was struggling with. He shared their ownership with his business partner. Mark was everything Alex wasn't: confident, outgoing, and always surrounded by women. He was the kind of man who didn't even have to try, and women flocked to him. His charisma was magnetic, the kind that made everyone else seem invisible. In comparison, and Alex knew it, he could feel the difference between himself and Mark. The stark contrast in the way people looked at them. Mark was a natural leader, while Alex felt like he was constantly playing catch-up one night after. The last of the customers had left the bar. Alex stayed behind with Mark for a drink. I don't know if it was the alcohol or the overwhelming weight of his own insecurities, but that night Alex finally spoke up. "Mark," he said, his voice low, almost as if he was testing the waters. "I need to talk to you about something." Mark raised an eyebrow, taking a slow sip of his drink. "What's going on, man?" Alex's fingers drummed nervously on the edge of his glass. "You know things haven't been easy with my girlfriend, especially in the bedroom. And I've been thinking, maybe you could help." The words hung in the air for a moment. Mark's expression, unreadable as he processed what Alex had just said. It took a second for it to sink in, but when it did, I could see the confusion in Mark's eyes. "What do you mean, help?" Mark asked, genuinely puzzled. Alex took a deep breath. "I was thinking, maybe if you and she had a moment together, it could fix things." Silence. Mark stared at Alex, blinking a few times, not sure whether he had heard him correctly. It was a line that shouldn't have been crossed, a conversation that shouldn't have been happening. But Alex was drunk on insecurity, and Mark was the kind of guy who thrived on attention, on validation. The offer hung between them, thick and dangerous, like it was something that couldn't be undone. All right, here's a more suspense-driven conclusion that builds up the tension without crossing into explicit content. The night had taken an unexpected turn, and I could feel the weight of it hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. The plan, which had seemed so simple earlier, something to fix what was broken, now felt like a tangled mess of confusion, desire, and regret. The atmosphere in the room was thick, suffocating almost, and I could see it on Alex's face, his eyes flickering between guilt and frustration as he watched Mark and me. I didn't know what to expect, but the look on Alex's face told me that things were about to get much more complicated. Mark, who had been so sure of himself just hours ago, now seemed more uncertain than ever. The cocky grin that usually lit up his face had faded, replaced with a distant look as he glanced from Alex to me. His usual self-assuredness, the kind that had always made him irresistible, was now a mask of tension. The crackling energy between us was undeniable, heart pounding in my chest. As I moved away from Marco, I stepped toward Alex. The silence between us had become unbearable, a chasm that neither of us seemed capable of crossing. There were no words, just that all-consuming feeling of something being lost, something slipping away that we might never get back. "I think we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the racing thoughts in my head. I didn't want to talk about what had just happened, about the complexities of what we had been trying to fix, but it was the only way to clear the fog that had descended over us. Alex looked at me, his lips parting, as if he wanted to say something, but no words came out. I could see the battle inside him, the shame, the frustration, the regret. He was a man caught between his desires, his insecurities, and his desperation to make things right. His body was still tense, but I could tell he was reaching for the courage to confront what had been left unsaid for far too long. "I didn't think it would be like this," he admitted, his voice low, almost strained. "I thought we could fix things, you know." He gestured around the room, his eyes flicking to Marco before returning to me. "Would help, but now I don't know." His words hung in the air, and I felt a sudden shift. The space between us felt too wide, the distance too great. We weren't just talking about physical intimacy anymore. It was something deeper, something unspoken. I could see the battle within him, the shame of failing, not just as a partner, but as a man, and I hated it. I hated seeing him like this, caught between the pieces of a plan that had gone awry and the raw reality of our situation. I turned away for a moment, my mind racing. What had we done? Had we taken it too far? Was this a moment of clarity, or was it the beginning of the end? Marco, who had been standing off to the side, finally spoke up, breaking the tension with his usual swagger. But this time, there was no confidence in his voice, only the hint of a man trying to cover up the uncertainty that had slowly crept in. I think we've all had enough of this, he said, running a hand through his hair. Look, maybe we went too far. Maybe this isn't what any of us wanted. Alex's eyes flickered, but he didn't respond. It was as if the words weren't enough to undo what had been done, as if they couldn't erase the weight of the night's events. I didn't know what Alex was feeling, but I could feel my own heart sinking. The thrill of the unknown had quickly turned into a burden, and I wasn't sure how to carry it anymore. I think I should go, Marco continued, his voice softer now, almost apologetic. I'm not sure I'm helping anything anymore. He turned to leave without waiting for anyone to stop him, but as he reached the door, he paused, glancing over his shoulder. There was something in his eyes, something like regret, or maybe realization. He knew, as much as we did, that what had been set in motion couldn't just be undone. Between us had changed irrevocably. When Marco left, the door clicked shut behind him, with a finality that left the room eerily quiet. For a moment, I stood there, not knowing what to do or say. The night felt like it had slipped from our control, and we were left with the mess we'd made. There was no going back. I turned to Alex, who was still sitting there, his hands gripping the edge of the couch, as if it were the only thing holding him together. His face was pale, the usual warmth and comfort I'd seen in him now replaced by something I couldn't quite identify. What now? I asked, my voice trembling slightly. I don't know, Alex admitted, his eyes meeting mine. I thought maybe this would fix it. I thought maybe if I could just make things right, we could move forward. But it's not that simple, is it? I shook, my head slowly. No, it's not. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating. In that moment, I realized just how broken we both were, and how much we had to confront, if we wanted to rebuild whatever we still had left. But I wasn't sure. We could fix it. I wasn't sure there was anything left to fix. Alex stood up slowly, as if the weight of everything was too much for him. I need to get some air, he said, his voice hoarse. I need to think. He moved toward the door. But before he left, he turned back to me, his eyes filled with something that might have been regret, or maybe it was just exhaustion. I never meant for it to get this far. I don't know what I was thinking. I just wanted us to be okay. The door clicked shut behind him, and I was left, standing there alone in the silence, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I didn't know where things would go from here, but I knew one thing for certain: nothing would be the same again. As the clock ticked on, I found myself staring at the door, waiting for Alex to return, knowing that whatever came next was still hanging in the balance. The night wasn't over yet, and the real test was just beginning. Would we find our way back to each other? Or was this the beginning of the end? Only time would tell.